us again. Hey, Elmo Berries, how can we make our pyramid stay?
I suppose you can ask it politely.
No, Elmo Berries, how can we make our pyramid last forever?
Oh, we'll have to visit Egypt for that. Triangle, triangle, what? Triangle, triangle, square. That's how Egypt built the pyramids over here. Ancient being told from long, long ago, when the rest of the world was in doubt. Africa figured it out.
Peace, peace, people. Welcome to Jemima's World of Jelly Moose's Cafe. I am your hostess, Jemima. It is good to be black in the land of the living once again. What you heard at the beginning is from a YouTube channel called Omoberry, Omoberry, and it talks about Black history. So it teaches kids. It's a lot of kind of like a cartoon, like Gracie's Corner, but it teaches kids about Black history. All right, so we're going to get into it because I don't want to. It's going to be kind of a lengthy one, so I want to go ahead and get into it. So, um, we, for those of you who don't know, Black education is a resistance, and with the current cabinet that's going in, 47 just announced that Linda McMahon from WWE is going to be head of the Department of Education. And what that means for our Black babies and our Black children is that their education will be taken away from them. And so we have to be proactive in this thing, y'all. We cannot sit and wait to see what she's going to do. We really have to be proactive. Our ancestors used education as a resistance. And I'm going to read this book first to show you how they used it. All right, it's called Light in the Darkness. The story about how slaves learned in secret is written by Lisa Klein Ransom and is illustrated by James E. Ransom. So I want to read this first so that we can kind of get an understanding of how our ancestors used education as a resistance. All right. Rosa. In the dark of our cabin, I can't see my mama, but I can feel her breath on my face and whispers, "It's time." I rise from my pallet on the floor and stumble. Mama holds my hand tight and pulls me close. "Follow me," she says, even softer. I hurry because now I know where we're going. I grab the back of Mama's skirt and I stay close, following her steps as best I can, out of our cabin and into the night. And most everyone in the quarters is asleep, but we can still crouch low, but we still crouch low and walk with soft steps till we reach the field. We have to make sure that the patrollers don't catch us and take us to master. We carry the darkness with us out of the quarter, through the trees, down past the creek. And when Mama stopped, I stopped. When Mama turned, I turned. Our walk is long and silent, and broken twigs and sharp rocks cut the bottom of our feet. One night last week, when the lantern was out and the cabin was cool, Mama told me about a place we could go to learn letters. "Like the letters Morris reads to us from the Bible on Sunday?" I asked her. "Just like those," Mama said. Mama says down the road a bit at the Pompeii plantation, the master's wife taught Morris to read the Bible when he was young. Guess she never figured he'd take that learning and make a school. He's old now, but he held on to his learning long enough to teach us. Mama says one day when we're free, we're going to need those letters. I'm going to read that again. Mama says one day when we're free, we're going to need those letters. But for now, we have to act like reading is the last thing we want to do. Master once whipped a slave girl for learning to read. We all had to watch him give her lash for every letter that she learned. Mama stepped in front of me so I couldn't see, but I could still hear the whip. Tonight we walk till my legs feel like they can't walk anymore. Mama stops and whispers, "Here." She calls out like a bird, then the bushes in front of us move to the side. We step forward and look down into a big hole in the ground. In the light of a lantern, I see faces, young and old, looking up at us. As many as the fingers on my hands, some of the faces I know and some I don't. Arms reach up to help us down. First me and then Mama. We squeeze into the center of a pit, barely big enough for us to stand in. Branches move back into place, making a roof that pricks our hair. It's cool inside. Damp dirt and the sharp smell of pine needles cling to everyone. Someone holds the lantern, and all I can see is a pile of sticks. At least that's what they look like to me. Morris says soon they're gonna look like trees. Soon they're gonna look like letters, and those letters will spell out words. He takes some of the sticks and makes a shape that looks like a hat. Says it's called an A. He makes two noises and says, "Those are the sounds A makes." We smile at each other when we make the sound because if anyone heard us, they would swear there were voices coming from a grave with all the A's and R's. But we remember to keep real quiet. Touch it, Morris says. So you remember with your eyes, your ears, and your hands. Doesn't make much sense to me, but I touch the sticks and try to remember the letter A. He scratches other letters out in the dirt. We do a lot of scratching to see if we can make the letters too. Y'all gotta learn fast, Morris says. Sun will be on us before you know it. A, B, and C. So many sounds and shapes in my head. I hope I can make room for all the other letters, he says, that are coming. He's going to teach us the whole alph, I, bet. Master says slaves are too dumb to learn. I'm going to read that again. Master says slaves are too dumb to learn. You wouldn't know it because in this school, they are taking in learning like it's their last breath. Practice the letters every day, says Morris, for the next time I can come back. And one by one, we are lifted out of the pit. It's lighter now, and I know we need to move quick if we're going to make it back to the quarter before the sun rises. This time, I don't hold on to Mama's skirt, but I stay close. Sometimes she has to pull me to help me keep up. Now you stay quiet about the letters, Rosa, she says once we're inside our cabin. My eyes are already closed, and I'm too sleepy to tell her that it won't be hard to keep our secret because all I need to do is think about that whip. When the day starts, I'm so tired I can hardly want to take care of the young'uns. Thinking about the letters keeps me awake. I hear the letters when the young'uns call Rosa, and I hear them when I call my own mama. All day long they are in my head, safe from the master. We can't go every night. Mama says it's too dangerous, but she always seems to know when it's time for school. Sometimes she just wakes me up, puts her finger to my lips, and we slip out. The crickets are so loud we can hardly hear the sticks cracking under our feet. It's better that way, because no one wants to be caught out of the quarters. Sometimes the patrollers ride all night trying to find slaves who are away from their plantations or running to freedom. I hear that they're like wolves. They see better at night. Lord help you if they catch you. After a few more nights of lesson, I'm aching. I know we're supposed to be quiet as cotton when we're walking, but I can't help asking Mama, when are we going to learn to read? Can't see her face well enough to know if she's mad, but her voice sounds tired. Patience, Rosa. She says so low I can barely hear her. There are folks a lot older than you who still can't read. I look at my feet when I think about how long Mama's been waiting. Our next night in school, we heard something outside. Hoofbeats. Maybe someone told the patrollers where we were meeting. Maybe they're looking for a runaway. Cold sweat and scared breath fill the pit. The rumble of the horses get closer. Someone kneels to pray. I grab Mama's hand so hard and she makes a face. The horses stop above us. And so does our breathing. Feels like I can't make my body hold still anymore. If we wait much longer, the sun will be up. Let's try over Ramsey's farm, a man says finally. Close enough so we can hear. Ain't nothing here. The hoofbeats start to move away. One by one, we all start breathing. Morris says we need to move the school or wait a while before we meet again. The next day, we hear two field hands talking. The patrollers caught two of them coming back early this morning. Their master whipped them so bad, one of them nearly bled to death. Mama's body gets as hard as wood. Ain't no one gonna come to school now. Folks just too scared. or just too tired of trying. Days pass and still no school. I've learned all my letters and I'm ready to make words. Morris told me after the letters comes to reading and writing. Finally, one night, I can't wait any longer. And I shake Mama. Not to write, not tonight, Rosa. It's not safe. I shake her again and don't stop until I feel her get up from her pallet. We leave for school under a speck of moonlight. Morris is alone. Only me and Mama came to school. As he helps us down, he smiles at me. Didn't expect to see y'all tonight. Might as well get started, he says. He reaches for the stick. Rosa, I got a word just for you. He writes 4 letters in the dirt, and I move closer to see. R-O. We hear them again. Footsteps this time. Soft, soft like, but sure. Like they know just where we are. Whispers and more steps. I look up at Mama, but she just stares at the roof. Master will whip us all and Morris the most for teaching us. A lash for each letter. And then there's another sound, like the soft call of a bird. Morris reaches up to pull apart the branches. I raise the lantern to see who found us. I see faces looking down at us. Some I know, some I don't. Everyone waiting to step into school. We lift our arms to help them down one by one. A girl, new and bigger than me, stands in the corner of the pit. Here, I say, picking up a stick, I'll show you how to write my name. All right, so this book talks about the great lengths and the sacrifice and the terror that our ancestors went through. They were subject to be whipped, sold, or even killed, but they were determined to be educated. They had the courage, but very little resources. Nowadays, we have the resources, but no courage. I was on I'm a teaching artist, and I won't tell you where, but I'm a teaching artist. And I was on a Zoom meeting today with other teaching artists across the country. And 2 of my colleagues talked about teaching at a school called a lockdown school. I'd never heard of that before. And it is a school where they send children who act out, who may have been removed from their home, who are at risk students, kids who maybe want to cause harm to themselves or cause harm to each other or to someone else. And so they send them to the school called a lockdown school. Now, to me, it sounds like a prison. And I asked the teachers who said that they worked there, and all 3 of the teachers that said that they worked there are white. And I asked what was the demographic of these schools. And they hemmed and hawed and, oh, it's very diverse. And I'm like, the lies you tell. Because I know that they're not sending white kids to these schools. And why would you call a school a lockdown school? I don't understand that. And they were saying that, yeah, we go in and they're teaching artists as well. And so they go in with artistry. Now, my fear is that these students are probably, black and children of color, people of color, or students of color. And my fear is that you're getting all of these arts, but getting these arts is not going to prepare you for the world. It's not going to prepare you to get a job or to own a business. And if I'm curious to know if there anything else that's taught in the school. But I just wanted to bring that out real quick before I forgot it. But going back to 47 in his new cabinet pick for education. So I pulled off of the internet how Project 2025 is going to affect public education. And we know that most of the students in public education are Black children and Black and brown children. So let's see. how it's going to affect our children. Well, first it says the number of teaching positions that would be lost under Project 2025, elimination of Title I schools will affect 2.8 million students. It looks like about 180,000 teaching positions will be lost. 180,000 teaching positions will be lost. 800,000 preschoolers, toddlers, and infants would lose early services under Project 2025, elimination of Head Start. I work in the schools, and most of my kids that I work with are Head Start. And the thing about that is, a lot of them come into Head Start really not knowing a whole lot. Parents, we got to do better. We have to do better as parents. We have to teach our children at home before they get to Head Start. When they get to Head Start, they should know, if not all of the alphabet, some of them. So we have to do better. Um, what else does it say? Let's see. So Title I schools are going to be the most affected. And it says since 1965, Title I has provided critical financial help to high poverty schools and districts. Project 2025 plans to eliminate them, eliminate the funding entirely. Eliminate the funding entirely. In its place, states will receive no strings attached block grants with zero regulations or oversight. Under this plan, the tight education budgets will be further strained, undermining the academic outcomes of 2.8 million of nation's most vulnerable students. Those are black and brown students, y'all. These are black and brown students. Removing Title I funding would mean losing thousands of teachers, again, ultimately limiting children's access to quality instruction. Um, it would be devastating to local schools, students, families, and to the communities. If it succeeds in gutting this funding, students are not going to get the support that they need. Staff delivering those services and support, they're going to lose their jobs. We need to be able to employ more staff, not take more staff away from our schools. We saw that during the pandemic, a lot of teachers quit after that. And if they gut this program, those teachers, those white teachers, black teachers, this is really going to affect y'all. Because if they gut public funding and it goes to private schools, those white teachers are going to go to those private schools and teach. Black teachers, they're not going to have you over there in those schools teaching because they're already looking at who you are and know that you're going to be teaching those kids, God forbid, anything that shows their legacy of being intelligent black and brown children. So yeah, we got to get it together. I'm telling y'all, we cannot wait until next school year when August rolls around and we're caught slipping again. We have got to get this together for our children. Um, Private school vouchers will be available in every state. Private school vouchers. A lot of our kids, their parents, they can't afford those vouchers. Let's see what else does it say. Attacking the educator's voice. Those schools, public schools that do stay open, the ones that may be able to remain open, um, they're going to curtail what the teachers can teach. They're going to take books away. And the books that they're going to take away are books about our children's history. Books written by Maya Angelou, books about Dr. King, books about Rosa Parks, books about Frederick Douglass, books about slavery, books about Africa, books about anything that shows anything other than Christianity and white people. They're going to remove those books. So I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. I don't. I do know that. Um, I do know that. I do know that we have churches in the Black community on every corner. I do know that. I do know that there are at least two of those in the communities. You have mega church. And when I mean mega church, I don't mean like TD Jakes or Joel Osteen type, but you have large churches. We'll have over 500 members. I really honestly suggest that Black churches find out if they have any teachers in their congregation. In Sunday school, you will need to turn that into school or homeschool, if you will. We have the teachers to do the work. We just need the parents to cooperate and get our students into these home schools, in these home co-op schools. They're all over the country. It's really not hard to find one. And the more our home schools grow, the more teachers we can put in those, the more money the homeschool has to bring in more students, to bring in more teachers, to invest in our own students. Because I'm telling y'all, public school was not created for Black people. Public school was created for white people. I can't remember the man's name that created public school, but it was created for white people to get free education. And what happened is integration. Integration happened. Prior to integration, Black kids weren't going to like public schools, they were going to their own schools. And then integration happened. And when integration happened, what happened to the people, the teachers that were teaching in Black schools? They lost their jobs because white parents were not going to have Black teachers teaching their white kids. So teachers lost their jobs. The only people that went to those white schools now from the Black schools were janitors and the lunch ladies. That's it. Teachers, principals, they lost their jobs. And that's what's getting ready to happen again. And I don't know why we cannot see it. I don't know why we can't see it. So Black education is definitely a resistance. Again, our ancestors risk life to learn. And our kids won't even give up an hour of TV to learn. They won't give up a couple hours of playing video games to learn. And our ancestors risked their lives to learn. Now, from 1861 to 1870, we had the Freedmen's Education. The Virginians, formerly enslaved people, sought education for themselves and their children at the earliest opportunity. So in 1861, we hadn't even finished the Civil War. And we were already fighting to figure out, okay, when this war ends, what are we going to do about learning? They began in Virginia, and African Americans established and taught in schools for Virginia's freed people. They created the first Black secondary school in the state. This was in Virginia. More than one-third of the teachers at Virginia's first Black schools between 1861 and at the end of the Reconstruction were African American. So from now, I want y'all to hear me and listen to the dates and listen to what I'm saying. 1861, we were still enslaved. When the secondary schools were created, the teachers were African American. So who taught them? They had learned in secret, and now they're ready to teach. Black teachers taught for longer in freedmen schools in Virginia than white teachers. White women weren't teaching really in Black schools. Black teachers taught longer. Not only were African Americans the first to teach in primary schools for Virginia's freed people, they were also founded and staffed the first secondary school in the state for free Black people. Northern aid societies like the American Missionary Association sent teachers, books, and other educational support to Virginia's early Black schools. And the federal government provided building material for schools and transportation for Northern teachers through the Bureau of Refugees, Freedmen, and Abandoned Lands, popularly known as the Freedmen's Bureau. Virginia had long outlawed the education of its enslaved African Americans, passing increasingly oppressive legislation in the decades leading up to the Civil War. Educated enslaved people posed a dual threat to the state. First, they might read and embrace the American Revolution's expectation of human equality. Second, they contradicted one of the ideology foundations of slavery, the presumed intellectual incapacity of Africans and those of African descent, and the consequent necessity for protection by a superior race. In other words, they were afraid that if we learned, we would learn how intelligent, smart we are, and therefore understand that we were not an inferior race, but that white people were superior. So they didn't want us to learn, and they still don't, and they are proving it. They are proving it. Although some Virginians had once supported the idea of education for Black people, by the 19th century, slave insurrections and rumors of thereof had halted any movement toward increased literacy for the enslaved. We talk about the Revolution of Haiti. We talk about Gabriel's conspiracy, Nat Turner's conspiracy. Uh, all of those that started revolutions, especially Nat Turner. Nat Turner learned how to read, and he used their own writings against them. So this is from the Freedmen's Bureau. I'll pull this off about Freedmen's education. There were some teachers from Alexandria, Mary Chase, Jane Crouch, and Annabelle Davis. There were Black women who had once conducted classes in secret. They began to teach openly. Sarah Gray opened another school in Alexandria that summer. Mary Peak, long mistakenly credited as the first Black teacher to teach openly in Virginia, established a school in Hampton in September at the insistence of Black refugees. They were fleeing from plantations to freedom on the peninsula, and African Americans were teaching in Norfolk, Virginia, and also at Fort Monroe, and also in Yorktown by 1861. The 16 of the first 24 teachers in Black schools in the first year of Black self-emancipation were African Americans. When I go to schools now, it was 24 teachers in Yorktown. 16 of them were African Americans. That's over half. When I go into school systems now, and I go into these schools that are predominantly Black and brown, I count how many white teachers I see and how many Black teachers I see. Now, most of the time, there are Black women that are in the office doing paperwork, but when it comes to actually teaching our students, the ratio is probably, I don't know, 10 to 3, 10 to 4. I'll count 10 white teachers and 4 Black teachers. So we're going backwards. We're going backwards. And as far as the male Black teachers, it's probably 10 to 1. I can count 1 or 2 male Black teachers in our school systems. Only one of the 8 Northern white teachers who taught in the first year remained in the school for more than 1 year, while all but one of those 16 Black teachers taught for many, many years. African Americans were not only the first primary school teachers in Virginia, they also founded and staffed the first secondary school in the state. Clement Robinson, a formerly enslaved person from Petersburg, Virginia, who had studied at Pennsylvania Ashram Institute, established the Beulah Normal and Theological School in 1862 in Alexandria, the first of the 14 Black normal schools and high schools founded in Virginia before the end of Reconstruction. Funding for Black schools in Virginia came from the freed people themselves. I'm going to say this again. Initial funding for Black schools in Virginia came from the freed people themselves. That means that those people who had already, whether they were freed by the Civil War or whether they were monumented while they were enslaved by their oppressors, by their enslaver, or what if they had run away and the war was over, they funded their own schools. Though usually impoverished, refugees managed to pay teachers. From 1862 until 1865, Northern groups, both existing missionary societies and new secular freedmen's aid societies, organized to send teachers to Virginia and other southern states to provide minimal salaries and to send material aid. Of the 450 teachers in Virginia, by the spring of 1865, not quite one third were supported by such secular groups as the New England Freedmen's Aid Society and the Pennsylvania Freedmen's Relief Association, and one half were sustained by Northern religious groups. I said that again. One half were sustained by Northern religious groups such as the American Missionary Association, the American Baptist Home Mission Society, and various Quaker organizations. That means that the churches were sustaining these schools to teach our Black children. More than 1/6 of the teachers, particularly African American teachers from Virginia, taught independently of any external aid. That means they took money out of their own household to make sure these kids could learn. I'm not going to read all of this. You can pull it off of the internet. Let me read this part real quick. So it looks like Andrew Johnson's Reconstruction. President Andrew Johnson, who opposed the Freedmen's Bureau, of course he did, weakened the organization by pardoning the majority of former Confederates and restoring their property. So Andrew Johnson was the vice president at the time of Lincoln's assassination. And though 40 acres and a mule bill had, or was up to pass, when Andrew Johnson took office, instead of passing the 40 acres and a mule to give reparations to the formerly enslaved, he decided that he would give the land back to white enslavers and also give them a reparation. They got like $300 for every male that they enslaved from the government. And so he also opposed the Freedmen's Bureau. It weakened the organization by pardoning the majority of former Confederates and restoring their property. Now, who does this sound like? Who does this sound like? Pardoning those that don't need to be pardoned, opposing the Freedmen's Bureau. Who does that sound like? History is repeating itself for us, y'all. That left the Bureau with little real estate with which to carry out its mandate. When the Freedmen's Bureau was renewed in 1866, Congress granted it a small appropriation. It gained one more renewal but was ordered to cease early all operations in 1870 and formally ended in 1872. So the Freedmen's Bureau that built schools, that hired Black teachers, um, helping Black people to get on their feet after slavery, disbanded in 1872 and is getting ready to disband again in 2025. In the end, its primary legacy was assistance to Black education in the South. The Freedmen's Bureau, however, was not allowed to expend funds on teacher salaries, school books, or classroom apparatus. It was limited to encouraging Black communities to raise money to purchase land for school buildings, providing building material from abandoned military buildings, transporting teachers to their schools, and paying rent on schoolhouses. Across the South, The Freedmen's Bureau helped to educate thousands of Black students who otherwise might have been unable to attend school. And at the same time, however, the federal response to emancipation was astoundingly inadequate. First, it was limited to education. Second, its expenditures were meager. The Bureau spent approximately $7 million between 1865 and 1870 in all southern states on all Bureau activity, which amounts to $1.75 for every Black man, woman, and child in the American South, or 35 cents per year for the Bureau's first 5 years of activity. And in Virginia, the Freedmen's Bureau appears to have expended between 190,000 and 225,000 for education during its existence. The higher number is taken as the total federal expenditure in Virginia. The Freedmen's Bureau spent 44 cents per capita for the education of the state's 512,000 Black citizens, or about 9 cents per capita per year. They're getting ready to do it again. All right, so here's some misconceptions about Freedmen's education. Historically, white Northern teachers have received most of the credit for establishing and teaching in Freedmen's School in Virginia and throughout the South. And in fact, from 1865 to 1866 school year, it was the highest watermark for Northern teachers in Virginia. 4/5 of the teachers in Black schools that year were Northerners, including 30 African Americans from Northern states. More than 1/5 of all the teachers in Virginia that year were Black. 275 Northern teachers accounted for 3/4 of the teachers in Black schools in 1866 to 1867, which was down from 360 from the prior year. 24 white Virginians were teaching in 1867, along with 90 Black teachers, 1/3 from the North. Those trends continued for the next decade. In 1870, the number of Northern white teachers had dwindled to 68, while the number of Northern Black teachers had increased to 50, 1/3 of the total of 149 Black teachers in the school in that year, compared to a total of 87 white teachers. And by 1876, fewer than 70 Northern teachers taught in Virginia's Black schools. 20 of those were Northern Black teachers. Nearly 2/3 all the teachers were African American. It is likely that between 1861 and 1876, more than 2,000 individual teachers taught in Virginia's Black schools. 1/3 of them were Black teachers. Most invested 1 or 2 years. Some taught 5 to 6 years. And a remarkable group of more than 40 educators spent 8 or more years working with children of freed people. The latter group consisted largely of Black Virginians. All right, that's all I'm going to read tonight. I'm not going to beat a dead horse. I just wanted to come on because with this thing that I'm seeing where Black women are taking a back seat now, where we're tired of coming to the aid of everybody, and I get that. And yes, take your sabbatical from them, but unfortunately, we cannot take a sabbatical from our own, and our children are about to be hit hard. And I'm in the system, and I see what is happening. Every class that I go in that are 98% Black children, 90% of the teachers are white. Our children are not being educated by their own. And when I go in and those little babies, they run up to me, they hug me, they love on me. And I figured out they do that because I probably look like their grandmother. Now, I'm not saying they don't hug and run to the white teachers because they see them every day. But I will tell you this. I have seen these white teachers literally treat Black kids differently from the 1 or 2 white students that they have. I've seen how they talk to them. I've seen children who were enthusiastic about learning. I've seen those teachers deflate their enthusiasm, and they feel defeated. and not even want to say anything else in the class. I've seen it, y'all. I know what's coming. And we are going to have to resist this Project 2025. My God, Linda McMahon from WWE is head of education for this country. I'm going to say it again. Linda McMahon from WWE is head of education for this country. All right, that's it, y'all. I wanted to read the story and really just talk to you guys. The resistance, the revolution will not be televised. If you are part of a Black church, you can suggest this. You can suggest that you gather the teachers that are in your church. You don't have to wait for the pastor to say this or the first lady to say this. You can go to your church and say, hey, I know we got some teachers. And even if they're not, quote unquote professional teachers, but you have some parents that are in that church that want to teach our children. We're going to have to. We can no longer leave it to the enslavers and the oppressors to teach our children. We can't. Go to your church. And on Sundays, when you have Sunday school, teach something else besides the Bible. There is a wealth of videos on YouTube that you can show the kids. The one I just talked about at the beginning of this episode, you have Gracie's Corner. You have a lot um, of things that you can download offline that you can teach your children. My lane is history, and so I teach history. But some of you, your lane is science. Your lane is biology. Your lane is mathematics. Some of you out there, retired teachers, it's time to get unretired. And the gathering place for Black people is the Black church. Let's use it. Let's use it. Other than sideshows. All right, so you know the drill. Love each other. Love yourself. Give each other some grace. Give yourself some grace. Honor your ancestors. I promise you, they will honor you. We are our ancestors. Stay cool, stay warm. You're in the Maryland area. I hear y'all might be getting some snow. A wintry mix in the fall. Hey, it's Mother Nature. Who gonna check them? Until next time, family, please like, share, and subscribe. I'm almost there. I'm almost at 100. It has grown tremendously, and I thank you all that have subscribed to this channel. I pray that it is helping you in whatever episodes I bring out, whether it's about Black history, whether it's about hoodoo, spirituality, what's going on in the news. I hope that each episode you learn something. Until next time, family, peace.